uh, two things are arriving at once. And before we go anywhere in this reading, I want to name what is unusual about that because I think it is the detail most worth sitting with. Most significant things arrive sequentially. One thing, then space, then the next thing. The particular quality of simultaneous arrival of two distinct streams of what you have been working toward and what you have been waiting for, reaching their expressions in the same window, belongs to a specific kind of energetic moment that does not happen frequently, and that when it does happen tends to produce something greater than the sum of its individual parts. The money and the call are not coincidental. They are arriving in the same window because they are produced by the same underlying shift in your energetic landscape, the same turning of something that has been building, the same fundamental movement of things that have been in process for a long time, finally crossing the threshold from accumulating into expressing. They share a source, even if they have different faces and different forms and will arrive through different channels. What I want you to understand before we look at the specific cards is this. The reading today is not describing two separate pieces of good news. It is describing one fundamental shift that is producing two distinct manifestations. And understanding it that way changes how you hold it because it means what is arriving is not luck or coincidence or a fortunate alignment of unrelated circumstances. It is the specific natural consequence of something that has been building in you and in your life for a sustained period of time, finally arriving at its tipping point. Let me show you what the cards confirmed. Let me describe what I felt the moment this energy opened, because the initial impressions were immediate and they had a quality that I want to name before anything else. I felt abundance, not the wishful, slightly tense quality of someone who is hoping for abundance. The specific, warm, already present in the field quality of abundance that has arrived rather than abundance that is still on its way. The quality of a room that has been filled before you entered it rather than a room being filled as you watch. Whatever is coming has, at the energetic level, already arrived. The material manifestation of it is what is still crossing the distance between the energetic and the visible. I also felt relief, the specific, deep, full breath variety of relief that belongs to someone who has been carrying a question for a long time and who is about to have it answered. Not the relief of a temporary reprieve, the relief of something that has genuinely, structurally shifted in the direction of resolution rather than simply pausing in a more comfortable position. Both of these are yours, coming now. The first card in this reading arrived in the position representing the financial development that is approaching the specific nature and quality of the money that the cards are confirming is coming. And I want to describe it carefully because the description tells you something important about the nature of what this is. This card shows a hand extended from a cloud holding a single pentacle, a golden disc in front of an abundant, fertile landscape. This is the card of genuine, material, tangible, new beginning in the domain of the practical and financial world. It belongs to the earth element, the element of what is actually real rather than merely hoped for, and it sits at the very beginning of its suit, which means what is coming is not a continuation or a revision of something already in motion. It is something genuinely, structurally new. What I am reading in this card about the nature of the financial arrival is something I want to name specifically. This is not a windfall in the sense of something randomly appearing from outside the logic of your life. It is the beginning of something that has your name on it, that belongs to the specific direction you have been moving in. That is the natural expression of something you have been building or developing or pursuing in a real way. The pentacle in this card does not drop from the sky. It is offered by a hand. Someone, something, some opportunity or outcome or result has been moving toward the position of extending this to you. I also want to speak to the fertility of the landscape in this card because it carries something important beyond the immediate arrival. The ground this pentacle is being offered against is rich and receptive. What is coming is not arriving into depleted soil where it will struggle to grow. It is arriving into conditions that will support it, that will allow it to root and to develop and to produce more over time than the initial arrival alone suggests. The beginning this card describes is genuinely a beginning, not a one-time event, but the start of something that will continue to develop. The second card arrived in the position representing the call that is coming, and I want to be specific about what I am sensing in this card about both the source and the nature of what is about to arrive in your phone or your inbox or whatever channel the universe has chosen to deliver it through. This card shows a figure at a crossroads, fully equipped, about to depart on something significant, with the quality of someone who has prepared and who is now in the specific moment of the beginning of action. The sword suit governs communication and the mind and truth. And this court figure at the beginning level of the suit represents someone whose communication is genuine and whose reaching out is purposeful rather than casual. What I am reading in this card about the call is something I want to say directly. Someone has made a decision and is acting on it. The call you are about to receive is not a tentative reaching out to test the waters. It is the expression of a decision that has already been reached, the communication of something that has been sitting in someone's interior long enough that they have arrived at the specific, clean, no longer provisional quality of someone who is ready to say it. I also want to speak to what the combination of the sword suit and the beginning energy of this card tells me about what is being communicated. The swords govern truth. The beginning position means undiluted potential. What this person is reaching towards you with is something true, something genuine, something that has not been managed or softened for palatability, but that is being offered in the specific quality of someone who has decided to say the actual thing rather than a managed version of it. The call is coming. The truth is what is being delivered. Does this feel like it is landing on something real in your actual life right now, Virgo? The sense of two separate streams of what you have been waiting for beginning to converge in the same window? Let me know in the comments. The third card arrived in the position representing the underlying source of both arrivals, the common root of the financial shift and the personal communication, and this is the card I want to give the most space to because it tells the larger story. This card shows a great wheel at a point of genuine turning, the figures ascending on one side and descending on the other, the Sphinx at the apex watching the whole mechanism turn with the impartial awareness of something that has always operated this way. This is the card of structural, large-scale turning, of something at the level of genuine fortune rather than daily circumstance changing direction, of a cycle completing and a new one beginning with the specific quality of something that has been building toward this point for longer than any single decision or event would account for. What I am reading in this card as the source of both arrivals is something I want to name clearly. You have been in a sustained period of building, not always visibly, not always with the kind of external confirmation that makes it easy to trust the process, but building nonetheless. In your work, in your capabilities, in your character, in your relationships, in the specific, quiet, consistent way that Virgo builds things, which is methodically and thoroughly and without requiring an audience for the building to be real. And that sustained building has now reached a threshold that produces turning. The wheel in this position is not describing tomorrow's fortune. It is describing a shift that has been in motion for a while and that is now arriving at the visible phase, the phase where what has been accumulating in the interior world of your circumstances begins to express in the external material daily life texture world in ways that you and others can see and feel and touch. Both the money and the call are the visible face of this deeper turning. They are how the wheel's movement expresses itself in the practical reality of your specific life, in the domains where the building has been happening and where the results of the building are beginning to arrive. I want to speak to something about the wheel's timing that I think is relevant for how you hold the near future beyond tomorrow. The wheel, once it has genuinely turned in a particular direction, does not produce only a single consequence and then stop. It produces a series of consequences as the energy of the turning continues to work its way through the various domains of a person's life. What is arriving in the financial and relational channels right now is not the only expression of this turning. It is the first visible expression, the clearest and most immediate one. But the same underlying shift that is producing the money and producing the call is also working its way through other areas of your life, and those expressions will continue to arrive over the coming period rather than arriving all at once and then stopping. Stay open to more than what you can see immediately. The turning is bigger than its first visible face suggests. Inhale with me, Virgo, because the fourth card is the one I want you to receive with full presence, because it speaks to something about what both of these arrivals are going to feel like when they land. This card shows a figure standing at a high point, wand raised, sun blazing behind them in unqualified radiance, the quality of genuine, embodied, fully arrived triumph that has come through the full sequence of its journey rather than simply having been declared. This is not the imagined triumph of someone who has hoped. This is the actual triumph of someone who has done the work and arrived at the specific, felt, cannot be manufactured quality of what arrival produces in the body and in the life. What I am sensing this card is describing about what is coming is something I want to name with warmth. It is going to feel like relief, and it is going to feel like validation, and it is going to feel like the specific, deeply satisfying quality of something working out that has required genuine effort to keep working toward. It is going to feel earned, not in the self-congratulatory sense of that word, in the deep, quiet, embodied sense of someone who has genuinely put in real work in a real direction for a real period of time and who is now in the position of receiving the real result of that real effort. I also want to speak to something about the sun blazing in this card because its specific quality tells me something about the magnitude of what is arriving. The sun in this card is not partial or conditional. It is full. The arrival that is approaching in both the financial and the relational domains has a quality of completeness to it, of something coming through all the way rather than coming through part way. This is not the beginning of something that might develop into what you are hoping for. This is the thing itself, arriving in the form it was always going to take when it finally arrived. I want to address something about how Virgo specifically tends to receive financial good news and the arrival of something long awaited, because I think naming it helps you receive both more fully. When money arrives, Virgo's first impulse is often to immediately account for it, to assign it in the mind, if not yet in the bank, to the obligations and the planned expenditures and the things that have been waiting for it. And while that impulse is genuinely practical and reflects the real quality of your responsible relationship to resources, I want to ask you to do something small first. Before the accounting begins, let the arrival land. Let the specific quality of financial pressure easing, of something that has been tight becoming less tight, of a question being answered by a number, actually arrive in your body as the relief it genuinely is. The accounting can happen afterward. The relief deserves a moment to be simply felt before it is immediately organized. The same is true for the call. When the communication arrives, your mind is going to want to immediately begin processing its implications, what it means, what it requires of you, how you should respond, what the response will produce. All of that analysis is valuable and will serve you. But before it begins, let what is being said reach you. Let the quality of it land before the interpretation of it begins. The person calling has done the work of reaching toward you. Let the reaching actually arrive before you are already somewhere else thinking about what comes next. The fifth card arrived in the position of what both of these arrivals are opening into, what the landscape looks like on the other side of the money arriving and the call being received. And I want to describe it with care because it speaks to something larger than either individual arrival. This card shows a scene of established, genuine, fully inhabited abundance in its most complete expression, a figure surrounded by the specific richness of something that has been built and that endures, with the quality of someone who has arrived at the fullness of what their element can produce, and who is inhabiting that fullness with the ease of someone for whom it is no longer new, but simply what their life is. This is not the excitement of a beginning. This is the settled richness of an arrival. What I am sensing this card is describing for what both arrivals open into is something I want to name with genuine warmth. A period, not a moment. A sustained, enduring, genuinely different quality of daily life in both the financial and the relational domains that does not simply return to the prior baseline after the initial arrival has been processed. What is coming is not a temporary improvement, but the beginning of a new normal, one that more accurately reflects the actual quality of what you have been building than the circumstances that have been visible until now. I also want to speak to what the earth element of this card tells me about the durability of what is arriving. Earth is the element of what endures, of what roots, rather than what blooms and fades. What is coming in both channels has the quality of earth energy, of something that is going to establish itself and remain, rather than something that arrives with fanfare and dissipates. The money that is coming and the relationship that is being communicated through the call are both going to root in your life in the specific, enduring way of something that belongs to the earth element's signature. I want to name something about what a new normal feels like when you are in the early stages of inhabiting it, because I think it is useful to know this before you arrive there. A new normal does not always feel dramatically different from the moment it begins. Because it is normal, it tends to settle into the texture of daily life with the quality of something that becomes ordinary relatively quickly, something you find yourself in rather than watching yourself arrive at. The specific daily experience of greater financial ease is not always the constant, vivid relief you might imagine it will be. It settles into the background of your life as what your life simply is. and that settling is not a diminishment of what has arrived. It is the specific quality of something being genuinely integrated rather than remaining as an exception. The same is true for the call and what it opens into relationally. What is arriving is not going to be a perpetual peak of significance. It is going to become the ongoing, ordinary, genuinely good fabric of a period of your life. And ordinary goodness, sustained and reliable, and yours, is one of the best things that can be said about any period of anyone's life. Before I close, I want to say something about the full picture of what this reading is describing, because I think it deserves to be received in its completeness rather than as two separate pieces of good news. What is arriving in your life right now is not random good fortune. It is the specific, natural, earned consequence of a sustained period of being who you are and doing what you do and maintaining the quality of engagement with your life and your values and your work that Virgo maintains, which is to say, with thoroughness and with care and with the specific unperformative quality of someone who is genuinely invested in doing things well rather than in appearing to do things well. The money is the financial world's recognition of what you have been building. The call is the relational world's expression of what you have been being. Both are responses to the same thing, which is the specific, real, accumulated substance of who you actually are and what you have actually been doing. You are not receiving these things because the universe randomly decided to be generous. You are receiving them because what you have been putting in has reached the amount that produces this specific kind of output. That is worth sitting with, not as pride exactly, as the specific, grounded, honest acknowledgement of the relationship between your actual investment and what it is now producing. You built this. Both of these things are yours because of who you are and what you have done. Let that be part of how you receive them. If this reading landed somewhere that felt specific and real rather than general and encouraging, please share it with a Virgo who might be in the same window of accumulation, reaching its expression, and who needs to hear that what they have been building is about to arrive. And leave a comment. I want to hear what you have been working toward and whether what is described here maps onto something real in your actual circumstances. I read every single comment, and I hold what is shared in this space with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo, two things are arriving in the same window because they come from the same root, which is who you are and what you have built. Receive both. Fully, you have earned both. And the life they open into is one you have been building toward all along.